Okay, the last part for our sum of finite arithmetic series. Now we're going to be adding all of the terms together. And this formula is also going to be given to you on your formula sheet. You are just going to need to know how to use it. So S sub n, that just means the sum of however many terms you have. N is the term number. A sub 1, you should know this one already, is just our first term. And then A sub n, that's going to be the last term of the list that we're adding together. And we're going to divide that by 2. Okay, so we're going to consider the arithmetic series. So they told us it's arithmetic. 3 plus 8 plus 13 plus 18 plus 23. And for part A, they want us to find the sum of the first 40 terms. So if we look at our equation, we have S sub n equals n times A sub 1 plus A sub n over 2. So they told us what n is by asking the sum of the first 40 questions. So we're going to find S sub 40 equals 40 times, and then we are going to look, A sub 1 is just the first number in our series. That's going to be 3. And then we add A sub n. Right now, we do not know what A sub 40 equals. So I'm just going to leave that part blank in my equation and then finish writing the rest. Okay, so if we look at our list, they do not give us the 40th term. But we have enough knowledge from writing our arithmetic series equations to find what A sub 40 is. So we're going to write our equation using that formula that we used previously, where we have A sub n equals dn plus c. And I know the first term is equal to 3, and that is an n value of 1. So I can plug those in, and I can look to find my common difference. And in this one, it looks like we're just adding 5. So we would have 3 equals 5 times our n value of 1 plus c. This gives me enough to write my A sub n equation. And then I'm able to figure out what A sub 40 equals. So for the equation, we would have A sub n equals 5n minus 2. Now we can figure out what A sub 40 is. And the reason we need that is because our n value is 40. So we'll have 5 times 40 and then minus 2. And when we take 5 times 40 minus 2, that's going to equal 198. And that will help us finish our sum equation. Once we have that equation finished, we are going to type it into our calculators. When you do that, I'm going to show you how to do it just to make sure we are all getting the correct answers. You really want to make sure you are using the fraction button. Let's see, I need this one. Okay, so when you type it in, let's clear this. We are going to start with the number 40. So you would just type in 40, and then you would put parenthesis. And then I recommend you just use the fraction by hitting the alpha and then the y equals and then enter. That way you don't have to worry about putting extra parentheses for the numerator. So then on the top, you're going to push 3 plus 198. And on the bottom, we're dividing by 2. So you should practice typing that into your calculator, and you should get 4020 for your final answer. And that is the sum of the first 40 terms. So I'm going to put S sub n, or S sub 40, equals 4020. And that is our answer. Okay, so now for part B. They want us to find n such that S sub n equals 570. So we're using that same equation from before. We have S sub n equals n times a1 plus an over 2. Okay, so they told us what the outcome was. They told us it's going to equal 570. So I'm going to start with 570 equals. I don't know what my n value is, so I'm just going to use the variable n. I still know what a sub 1 is because it's still the same series from before, so that's going to be 3 over 2. Now, this is where this part gets a little bit tricky. I mean, it's not really tricky, it's just sometimes it's hard to remember to do this. So we're looking for n. We do not know what n is, but when we find a sub n, we know we would plug in that n value into our a sub n equation, and then we would simplify. So that means where a sub n is, I am going to plug in my a sub n equation. So I'm going to plug in plus 5n minus 2. By doing that, I now only have one variable in my equation, n, and now I'm able to solve for it. There are a few different ways you can go about simplifying this. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the fraction, and to do that we can multiply by 2. And remember, when you multiply by that 2, it's to cancel out the 2 on the bottom, so we don't distribute the 2 on the right side. Once you do that, you would get 1,140 equals n times, and inside the parentheses, I'm going to combine the like terms of 3 minus 2. So then I would have 5n plus 1. Okay, then I'm going to distribute to get rid of the parentheses, so I'd have 1,140 equals 5n squared plus n. Now, looking at this, I have a quadratic and I'm not able to get rid of the n squared or the n, so I'm going to get one side to equal 0. So I'll have 5n squared plus n minus 1,140. Okay, once you are there, you could try factoring. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, but I recommend using quadratic formula. So for quadratic formula, that will not be given to you on the formula sheet, and you want to make sure you can type it into your calculator correctly. So we're going to do negative b, which in this case b is 1, so negative 1 plus or minus the square root of b squared, 1 squared, minus 4 times our a value of 5 times our c value of negative 1,140, all over 2 times our a value. Okay, so then when you type it into your calculator, you are going to type in the top part, hit enter, and then when you divide, do not divide it by 2 parentheses 5. You're going to divide it by 10 so that you get the correct answer. Otherwise, your calculator will divide by 2 and then multiply that by 5. Okay, so you should practice typing it in. You are going to get 2 different answers. You're going to get n equals 15 and n equals about negative 15.2. Now, if we think about the context of this problem, n is telling us how many terms we have added together. We cannot have negative terms and we cannot have part of a term. So because of that, the only answer that's going to make sense logically is just n equals 15. And that would be our final answer. Okay, so then in class, I had everyone do example 7 on their own to earn the homework. So I'd recommend pausing and trying example 7 on your own and then hitting play to check your work. All right, so for this one, we're going to find the sum of the first 20 terms. So I'm looking for s sub 20 equals, I know my n value is 20, and then my a sub 1 is my first term, so negative 16, all over 2. I don't know what a sub 20 is yet, so I'm going to write my rule so I can figure out what that is. So a sub n equals dn plus c. Looking at this, it looks like my common difference is adding 7, and my first term when n equals 1 is negative 16. So that gives me enough to write my rule. So I'll have negative 16 equals 7 times 1 plus c. So So negative 16 equals 7 plus c, and I subtract that. Be careful with your subtracting here because it should be negative 23 equals our c value. Once we know our rule, which in this case would be a sub n equals 7n minus 23, we can figure out using our n value of 20 what that equals. So a sub 20 equals 7 times 20 minus 23. And you are allowed to use a calculator again, so if you were to type that in, you would figure out that it's 117. So on the top of my sum equation, I'm going to add 117 over 2. Again, you should practice typing this into your calculator just to make sure you know how to do it accurately. And once you do that, you should get 1,010 for your sum of the first 20 terms. All right, so now that we have that, we can go ahead and find n such that s sub n equals 338. So I know that the sum or the outcome is 338, and that's equal to n times my first term, which was negative 16, plus a sub n. And if I look, I know my a sub n equation is 7n minus 23. So I'm going to have plus 7n minus 23 all over 2. Okay, so my first step, I'm going to multiply by 2 to get rid of the fraction. So those cancel out. And I would have 676 equals n. And then I can combine my like terms. So I would have 7n minus 39. So again, be careful when you're combining those like terms. Keep in mind what signs are in front of them. Then I can distribute to get rid of the parentheses. So 676 equals 7n squared minus 39n. And I want one side to equal 0, so I can plug it into the quadratic formula. Now, in class, most people were able to write the quadratic formula correctly, but then when they plugged it into their calculator, they were getting the wrong answer. So make sure you're watching this next part to ensure you can type it into the calculator correctly. So the first part, we are going to do negative b. So if we look, a is equal to 7, b is equal to negative 39, and c is equal to negative 676. So if I'm doing a negative b to start, since it's already negative, it's going to become positive. So I have positive 39 plus or minus the square root of, and then if your b value is negative, you have to put it in parentheses and then put the squared on the outside. Otherwise, your calculator will give you the wrong answer. And then we have minus 4 times our a value times c, which is negative 676. And this is all over 2 times our a value of 7. So when you type this in, again, when you do the dividing, you're going to divide by 14, not 2 times 7, because that will give you the wrong answer. So if you go ahead, sorry. I just do not know how to split my screen on this iPad anymore. Sorry, so that is your formula. You should get it wrote down, and then I will show you how to type it into the calculator in a second. Okay, oops. Where's my calculator? There we go. And close. All right, for this one. So we're going to start with the 39, and then I'm going to start with the adding, and then second square root. So the negative 39, to square both of it, we need to put the negative 39 in parentheses, like I have on my screen, and then square it. Then, remember, it's minus 4ac, so you're going to use the minus button, not the negative, because if you use the negative, it'll look a little bit different, so it'll look smaller. That will give you the wrong answer, so you want to make sure you use the minus button, so it looks like a normal subtraction. And then our a value was 7, and then our c value was negative 676. So that's what it looks like, and when you hit enter, you should get 182. And then we are going to divide that by 14 because we already multiplied the 2 and the 7 together. Good, and that would be your answer. So notice if I did 182 divided by 2 and then times 7 in parentheses, it does not give me 13. It gives me 637. So it is important that you are multiplying those numbers on the bottom together before you are dividing them. All right, so that gives us our answer. So n is going to equal 13. And when you're solving these, you're always going to end up with one positive answer. That's a whole number, and then one that might be a decimal or negative. And remember, n is the number of terms. So we don't want a negative number of terms, and we don't want part of a term. So we are looking for the whole number. Once you know the whole number, you can stop. You don't need to find the second answer for that. All right. If you have any questions, make sure you reach out, and then I will get back to you as soon as possible.